But I was very fortunate to be in London right before I joined the band. The Basie band was at the Grosvenor House with Lena for 2 weeks, and I was playing with the George Wein Festival All-Stars with Dizzy and Sonny Stitt and all the guys. But at night, I had my night times free, so I went and hung with the Basie band every night. And I dug Butch, I dug the band. Now, let me also say that I had 7 months notice to join the band. Basie called me and I thought I was being punked. I said, "Oh, you Basie, really? Okay." Now, I recognized his voice, so I knew it was. And he said, you want to come on the band? Now, physically, I've been a little challenged in my life with some surgeries, so I knew physically I wasn't up to really the traveling and packing up drums every night and all that, but I said yes immediately. If I last one night, I'm going out there. So the thing is, he said, incidentally, you have 7 months to prepare. I thought I needed to start next Tuesday or something. So what I did is I made an intense study. I made almost 50 cassette tapes filled with the Basie band from the 30s to the present time. And I just laid with those tapes. And when I got on the band, I kept my eyes on Basie. I didn't have to read one note of music. Now, it's interesting, after around 8 months, one of the saxophone players said, "Hey, why don't you take the book out and start reading the charts?" I said, "Really? I'm not playing, okay?" But you know what? I took the book out, I started reading the charts a little bit, and I started to play in a more tasteful way. So it was a positive thing. You know, anything I can do to clarify the musical truth of the groove, I'm flexible. You know, certain drummers in big bands saying, "Hey, if you don't go with me, you know." Now, the last thing I want to be part of is a musical train wreck because of differences in concepts of time and everything. But the thing is, if you know how to phrase, now see, my dad and I have been, we used to scat sing. My dad would be driving and I'd be playing brushes on the dashboard. We'd be scatting little 2s and 4s back and forth, you know. But the thing is, I mean, I scat like a horn player. So I know about phrasing and how to, you know, take a breath and things of that nature. So I enjoy, you know, the opportunity to accompany the artistry of people that really can tell a story musically. So the main thing is just the utmost compliment to me is when a horn player comes up and says, "Man, thank you for laying down the groove I needed to tell my musical story." You know, so if I'm taking care of business and I'm pleasing them, then I know that's my responsibility factor, you know. Now, when I'm leading my own band, I mean, I'm part of the band. I'm not a disciplinarian. You know, please believe me, I love to rehearse. But my big band in Nashville, if they're not available to rehearse, that's okay too. We sound great when we don't rehearse. That's because of their professionalism, and they can walk right in, they could sight read anything at any tempo, and they love playing with me, and I love playing with them. You know, jazz and Nashville used to be an oxymoron, right? But the thing is, I'm putting my Basie groove into the little country feel, and all of a sudden there's a little synergy happening, and I think I'm at the right place at the right time. Yeah. You know, now big band drumming, I mean, I have some idols, I mean, that I love. I mean, I loved Buddy, and I loved Gene, and I loved Louie in the big band, but man, I heard that Elvin Jones kicked Basie's band one night at Birdland or something, and a lot of my friends actually were there and said Elvin was like wailing with the band. So, I mean, that's somebody I never thought could play the Basie style. But the thing is, I mean, when you have a drummer that knows how to play time and keep that you know, triplet thing swinging a little bit, you know, that's when the magic starts to happen. Now, a lot of the younger drummers, they feel compelled to just bash and crash and drop bombs and catch every accent known to any, you know, human or whatever. Now, the thing is, when you leave alone a whole bunch of that stuff, all of a sudden, the groove gets a little juicier. And I've always been a musician that loves to play for dancers. When we would play with the Basie band at a dance, I would love it because we're playing different tunes, different tempos. People are dancing right up to the band. You can feel the energy, the audience, and it's a happening, right? Now, that's what jazz really is suffering from today. I mean, I don't want to look at an audience like they're an oil painting when I'm playing. I mean, if you can sit still while I'm playing, I commend you. You know, but I'd rather you get up and start moving and grooving, you know what I mean, you know. I mean, everybody that was in the band at that time deserved to be there. Now, I was a fan of the 50s band. That's when I was a little kid, I couldn't believe Sonny Payne. And I have to tell you a wild story. We were in Detroit when I was 10 years old, and I just had half of my hip removed, and I'm on crutches. My dad and I are playing at the Detroit State Fair, and we're in a little, tent over to the side of the main stage, and the Basie band with Sass is on the main stage, right? So they go on a break, and the whole band came over to hear my dad and I play with the trio, when he was demonstrating the Ampeg baby bass at that time. And so anyway, Sonny Payne comes over and asks my dad, can I take little Duffy for some pizza, talk drums? And my dad said, yeah. So Sonny took me, and we ate a big pizza and drank a big Pepsi, and we talked drums, and I'm looking at Sonny Payne, I can't believe it, man. So Sonny said, you're coming with me. I had an extra hour off before the next performance. He sat me on stage right next to his tom-tom. I'm right in the rhythm section, 10 years old, and basically looks at me, hey, what are you doing there? I said, Sonny said I could, And I sat on stage for the whole show, and I had the time. Basie was so loving to me. When my dad was in Chicago in the 50s, Basie would come over to our house, and he would play with me, and when I was a little baby and everything. So I felt, I was in Downbeat when I was 5 years old. My dad and I had a picture in there, and I was, my nickname was Jazz Jackson at that time. And it said, all I wanted to do at 5 years old was go on the road with the Basie band. So I knew at 5 that I was going to be in the Basie band at some time. Now, Don Lemon, who was my hero, and he was my first teacher at 4 years old, he was recording with my dad in Chicago with Bill Harris, and he stayed with us for 2 weeks. And my dad had a set of bongos on the fireplace mantle, and he hated bongos. He covered up the bass notes for him. But I used to take the bongos down and keep time with all the records, So Don said, hey, Duff has a little beat there. So he went and got me a bass drum and a snare drum and a hi-hat and a cymbal and taught me. So at 4 years old, I was swinging, right? So, Don was so instrumental in helping me. Now, when I was 12 years old, Don Lemon was asked to fill in for 2 weeks at the Riverboat in New York City, Empire State Building, with the Basie band, because unfortunately Sonny Payne's wife passed away, and he had to go to California. So my mother and my stepfather, who was a drummer, took me to the Riverboat, right? And Don Lemon asked Basie if I could sit in on the last set. And I get up there and hit Shiny Stockings with the band. Now, the thing is, Sweets is playing, and Lockjaw, and everybody, and we're grooving, and people are dancing, and they're stretching it out and taking solos. And then all of a sudden it comes to that one point where the drummer's supposed to go da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, I didn't know the song, I wasn't reading. So I stopped because the rest of the band stopped. So Basie said, play, boy! And I went, or whatever, I got through the tune, and he wouldn't let me play with the band for 7 years after that. But the thing is, my dad and I were playing with Edie and Pete at the Boca Raton Hotel, and when our show was done, we went to the main ballroom to hear the last set of the Basie band, right? Now, unfortunately, Sonny Payne was having a couple extra tastes, and he didn't know what song he was playing at that time, so Basie got me up there. I played the last 10 tunes of the night. And man, I was swinging with the band, and I couldn't believe it. My heart was beating like this, So anyway, around 3 days later, I'm up in Palm Beach hanging with my friends, and my car was in the shop. So I'm driving a rent-a-car from Miami, whatever. So we're barbecuing and swimming. My dad calls me and said, hey man, Basie just called. He needs you in like, where was it? Clearwater or something like that, like in 4 hours to play the gig. I said, man, I'm in jeans and a t-shirt. I stopped at Sears and got a pair of pants and a white shirt. I drove like a maniac to get to this place. Now I'm driving a rent-a-car, right? So I get to the gig like 20 minutes before the downbeat, and I'm like this, right? So Sonny says, I'll play tonight, and you play the next 2 nights. Now, he had another death in the family, so I had to go to California. So I played Sonny's drums. I used his sticks, his cymbals, everything, and I played 2 nights with the band, one concert in Clearwater, and then the other one in Cocoa Beach, So I go, and Basie was pleased with what I did, I behaved myself and played time, but I knew all the tunes. So the thing is, Basie comes up to me after the 2 nights and said, well, how much do you want? Man, if I could have done it for free, right? You know what I mean? So I said, well, how about a bill a night? Now this was in 1973. He said, a bill a night, whatever. So he gives me $200 bill, $200. I go back to Miami and turn in the rent-a-car, and the bill was $192.12. So for $8, I got a hamburger and I had a little fantasy treat, But Basie was so thrilled. I mean, I played with the Basie band. Let me say that we were in Tulsa, and we played a great concert. And Charlie Folks, the baritone saxophonist, he was always the first one down in the morning, dressed immaculately, for the bus ride to Dallas for 4 hours. And he challenged me. He bet me $100 that he could lose 30 pounds before me, right? And I said, okay, you're on, man, let's go, And so we get on the bus and everybody's talking, and Charlie Folks was talking about taking his wife to see the Yankee game, and he's getting ready to retire, and blah blah blah, and this and what he's going to do and the whole thing. And we all fall asleep, and he's usually the first one to wake everybody up when we arrive, And you know what? He died like this, with a smile on his face on the bus. Took 10 people to take him off the bus. Now Bobby Plater, bless his heart, calls Charlie Folks' wife. And didn't even say, incidentally, she said, I dreamt this last night that it was going to happen. And she went hysterical on the phone. Bill Hughes' wife consoled her, whatever. But the thing is, there we are playing a dance, like 4 hours after we arrived, and Basie, people are dancing, Basie's laughing and grooving. We have some white guy on baritone in a tuxedo, playing the parts like he's been with the band forever. In other words, the show had to go on, right? And I was in a state of shock. I never had to play after an experience like that, But hey, man, Basie said, suck it up and get up there and hit, And so I did. Now, the next night, we're in Miami, right? Now, before the concert, I said, Basie, please don't hold me responsible for anything that's going to happen in Miami, because I can't control what's going to happen, right? Now, at least 500 people showed up to the backstage door saying that I gave them permission to get in for free, But anyway, I'm taking my drum solo, right? And somebody says, hey, Duffy, whatever. And Basie turns to me and says, man, this ain't Miami, this is your Miami. And I cracked up. There was one time too, Freddie Green turned around and gave me a look like, hey, what song are you playing, So I turned to Basie and said, hey man, whose band is this anyway? And he pointed to Freddie. So I mean, Freddie turned around to me one time with the Cincinnati Symphony. And he said, give each beat its full value of time. I said, Freddie, you never talked to me so much before. We should get together and hang out. He didn't like young people as well, but he liked me for some reason. He gave me the biggest hug in the world when I left the band. Now, I don't know if it was because I was leaving, I don't know. But the main thing is that he cooked a soul food meal down at the Hilton Head, and invited some special people, and you know what? I was the only band member he invited to this. That was heavy. The guys were a little pissed off, but he was a great cook, man, I don't know if you know this, but, Billie Holiday was madly in love with Freddie.
Didn't know that.
But you know who was madly in love with Billie? Sweets.
Yeah.
Billie wouldn't give Sweets the time of day.